The Battle of Sekigahara, a turning point in Japanese history. Dawn breaks over a misty valley in central Japan. The date is October 21st, 1600, a day that would change the course of history forever. Two massive armies face each other across the field of Sekigahara, their banners dancing in the morning breeze. In just 6 hours, 160,000 warriors would clash in one of history's most decisive battles, a conflict that would unite Japan and shape its destiny for centuries to come. While many Americans are familiar with Japan's role in World War II, few know about the epic conflicts that forged the nation itself. Today, we'll uncover the story of the Battle of Sekigahara, a single day that would determine Japan's future and create the foundation for the nation we know today. Picture this. It's the end of the 16th century, and Japan is a powder keg of ambition and betrayal. For over a century, the country had been torn apart by civil war, with powerful warlords called daimyo fighting for supremacy in a period known as the Sengoku era, the age of warring states. Think Game of Thrones, but with samurai and far more at stake. The great unifier, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, had managed to bring temporary peace to the land, but his death in 1598 left a dangerous power vacuum, with his young son Hideyori as the nominal heir. Two mighty factions emerged: the Western Army, led by Ishida Mitsunari, who claimed to protect Hideyoshi's legacy, and the Eastern Army, commanded by the cunning and powerful Tokugawa Ieyasu. Tokugawa Ieyasu was no ordinary warlord. At 60 years old, he had survived decades of warfare, assassination attempts, and political intrigue. He had even been forced to order his own wife and son's death to prove his loyalty to a former ruler. This was a man who understood power and patience. While his rival Ishida Mitsunari was known for his administrative skills, Ieyasu was a master of both warfare and realpolitik. As tensions mounted, both sides began gathering allies. Ieyasu's Eastern Army boasted some of Japan's most experienced commanders, including the legendary Todo Takatora, whose castle engineering skills had revolutionized Japanese warfare. The Western Army, while larger on paper, was a fragile alliance of convenience, united more by suspicion of Ieyasu than genuine loyalty to their cause. The stage was set for the greatest single battle in Japanese history. But what made Sekigahara truly extraordinary wasn't just its scale. It was the complex web of loyalty, betrayal, and honor that would ultimately determine its outcome. In the weeks leading up to the battle, an intricate dance of espionage and negotiation took place. Ieyasu's agents infiltrated the Western Army, making secret deals and promises. Key Western commanders, including the powerful Kobayakawa Hideaki, received letters offering them land and power if they would switch sides at the crucial moment. These hidden arrangements would prove decisive. The battlefield itself seemed chosen by fate. Sekigahara was a crossroads where several ancient highways met, surrounded by hills that would prove crucial to the battle's outcome. The night before the conflict, a heavy fog settled over the valley, nature itself setting the stage for the drama to come. As dawn approached on that fateful morning, the Western Army held what appeared to be a superior position. They had occupied the high ground and positioned their troops to block the Eastern Army's advance. Ishida Mitsunari believed victory was within his grasp, but appearances can be deceiving, and the fog that shrouded the battlefield also concealed the seeds of betrayal. The battle began in the early morning hours, with both sides launching their initial attacks through the dense fog. The sound of war drums echoed across the valley, mixing with the battle cries of thousands of warriors. The first clashes were chaotic, with visibility limited to just a few yards in any direction. As the morning wore on and the fog began to lift, the true scale of the conflict became apparent. The valley was filled with tens of thousands of warriors, their armor glinting in the emerging sunlight. Samurai cavalry charged across the field, while arquebusiers, gunners, fired volleys into the dense masses of troops. The sound was deafening, a symphony of gunfire, clashing steel, and the screams of the wounded. But the real turning point was yet to come. Perched on Mount Matsuo, Kobayakawa Hideaki's forces watched the battle unfold. His 15,000 troops could tip the balance either way, and both armies anxiously waited to see which side he would choose. Ishida Mitsunari had counted on Kobayakawa's support, but Ieyasu's promises of power and land weighed heavily on the young commander's mind. The tension on Mount Matsuo was unbearable. Kobayakawa Hideaki stood frozen, torn between honor and ambition. Suddenly, Tokugawa Ieyasu made a bold move that would go down in history. He ordered his men to fire artillery shots at Kobayakawa's position, not to kill, but to force his hand. The message was clear: choose now, or be considered an enemy. The impact was dramatic. Kobayakawa's forces began moving down the hillside, but not toward their western allies. Instead, they charged directly into the flank of Ishida's army. The betrayal had begun, and like dominoes falling, other Western commanders followed suit. The battlefield erupted into chaos as soldiers found themselves suddenly fighting former allies. This was more than just a military turning point. It was a moment that revealed the changing nature of power in Japan. The old systems of loyalty based on local bonds and traditional obligations were giving way to a new kind of political reality, one based on practical benefits and calculated self-interest. It was Japan's transition from medieval to early modern society, played out in real time on the battlefield. Ishida Mitsunari watched in horror as his army began to disintegrate. His personal guard fought desperately to maintain their position, but they were now hopelessly outnumbered. The Western Army's casualties mounted rapidly, with estimates suggesting they lost nearly 40,000 men in just a few hours. The valley of Sekigahara became a graveyard of ambitions. But amidst the chaos, incredible stories of loyalty emerged. The Shimazu clan, famous warriors from southern Japan, executed one of the most dramatic escapes in samurai history. Led by their commander Shimazu Yoshihiro, a small band of samurai fought their way through enemy lines in what became known as the Shimazu Break. Picture a handful of warriors charging through thousands of enemies, their war cries echoing across the battlefield as they cut a path to freedom. Meanwhile, individual duels worthy of Hollywood epics played out across the battlefield. One famous encounter pitted the veteran warrior Ii Naomasa against Honda Tadakatsu, both legendary generals of the Eastern Army. Their troops watched in awe as these master swordsmen demonstrated the highest levels of samurai combat arts, their techniques honed through decades of warfare. The human cost of the battle was staggering. By noon, the field was littered with broken weapons, fallen banners, and the bodies of the dead and dying. The code of Bushido, the way of the warrior, demanded absolute commitment to one's cause, and thousands on both sides had paid the ultimate price for their loyalty, or their betrayal. As the fighting wound down, Tokugawa Ieyasu's victory was complete. The Western Army had been shattered, its remaining forces scattered to the winds. Ishida Mitsunari fled the battlefield, but was captured a few days later. His fate would serve as a stark message to any who might challenge the new order. He was publicly executed in Kyoto, along with several other Western Army leaders. The aftermath of Sekigahara transformed Japan. Tokugawa Ieyasu's victory ushered in a new era of centralized control that would last for over 250 years. The Tokugawa shogunate, as it became known, would reshape every aspect of Japanese society, from its class structure to its foreign relations. This was the Japan that would eventually emerge from isolation in the 19th century to become a modern world power. The battle's impact extended far beyond the military realm. Ieyasu's victory established a new political order based on a combination of force and strategic administration. He rewarded loyal daimyo with additional lands and prestigious positions, while stripping land and power from those who had opposed him. This redistribution of power created a stable system of checks and balances that would maintain peace in Japan for centuries. The new Tokugawa government also implemented innovative systems of control. They established alternate attendance, Sankin Kotai, requiring daimyo to maintain residences in Edo, modern-day Tokyo, and spend every other year there, effectively making them hostages to ensure their domain's loyalty. This system would become one of the most sophisticated methods of political control in pre-modern world history. Think of it as a medieval version of the Cold War's mutual assured destruction. But instead of nuclear weapons, the threat was to noble families held in a gilded cage in Edo. This system was so effective that Japan experienced no major domestic conflicts for over 2 centuries, a period of peace almost unheard of in world history. The legacy of Sekigahara extends far beyond the battlefield into modern Japan. Even today, you can find its echoes in unexpected places. Japanese business culture, with its emphasis on loyalty and long-term relationships, bears the imprint of lessons learned from this pivotal battle. Major corporations like Toyota and Mitsubishi can trace their origins to the merchant families that flourished under the stable rule that followed Sekigahara. The battle site itself tells a fascinating story. Unlike many historic battlefields that have been preserved as parks or monuments, Sekigahara remained relatively untouched for centuries. Local farmers quietly tilled the soil where samurai once fought and died. It wasn't until the late 20th century that Japan began to recognize and preserve this crucial historical site. Today, you can visit the battlefield and find ancient musket balls still embedded in the temple walls, silent witnesses to that fateful day. But perhaps the most profound impact of Sekigahara was how it shaped Japan's national character. The Tokugawa peace that followed created something unprecedented, a highly organized, literate urban society in an era when most of the world remained agricultural and feudal. During this period, Japan developed many of the cultural traits we associate with it today. Its attention to detail, emphasis on social harmony, and unique blend of tradition and innovation. Think about modern Japanese society's famous efficiency and organization. The roots of this can be traced back to the administrative systems developed by the Tokugawa shogunate. The detailed record-keeping, strict social hierarchies, and emphasis on proper procedures, all hallmarks of contemporary Japanese culture, were refined during the centuries of peace that followed Sekigahara. The battle also left its mark on Japanese art and literature. The stories of loyalty, betrayal, and sacrifice at Sekigahara inspired countless works, from classical poetry to modern manga. The concept of giri, obligation, versus ninjo, human feeling, a central theme in Japanese drama, was powerfully illustrated by the choices faced by commanders like Kobayakawa Hideaki. Even Japan's modernization in the 19th century was shaped by the legacy of Sekigahara. When Commodore Perry's black ships forced Japan to open to the West in 1853, the country's response was influenced by lessons learned from this battle. Just as Tokugawa Ieyasu had adapted traditional samurai warfare to include modern weapons and tactics, Japan's leaders realized they needed to blend their traditional strengths with Western technology and ideas. The parallels between Sekigahara and modern international relations are striking. Just as the daimyo had to choose between competing alliances, Japan today navigates complex relationships between traditional allies and emerging powers. The strategic thinking that guided Tokugawa Ieyasu's victory continues to influence Japanese diplomatic and business strategies. For Americans, understanding Sekigahara provides crucial insights into our most important Asian ally. The battle helps explain why Japanese society places such emphasis on group harmony, long-term planning, and careful attention to social relationships. These aren't just cultural quirks, they're survival strategies proven effective through centuries of history. Moreover, Sekigahara offers valuable lessons for understanding power transitions in any era. The battle showed how technological changes, like the introduction of firearms, can upset traditional power structures. It demonstrated how leadership, loyalty, and adaptation determine success in times of radical change, lessons that remain relevant in our rapidly evolving world. Today, standing on the quiet hills overlooking the Sekigahara Valley, it's hard to imagine the chaos and violence that unfolded here. But the peace and prosperity of modern Japan was built on the foundation laid that misty morning in 1600. It's a reminder that historical moments of crisis, however violent, can lead to periods of extraordinary stability and cultural achievement. The Battle of Sekigahara wasn't just another military engagement. It was a turning point that shaped a nation's destiny. Its legacy lives on in everything from Japan's corporate boardrooms to its popular culture, from its diplomatic relations to its social structures. Understanding this battle helps us understand not just Japan's past, but its present and future as well. As we've seen, Japan's history is far richer and more complex than many Westerners realize. The story of Sekigahara reminds us that every nation is shaped by pivotal moments that continue to resonate through time. It's a testament to how a single day of conflict can lead to centuries of peace, and how the choices made in crucial moments can echo through generations.